In today's video, we are looking at the LG Sunset. This is an all-new phone from Straight Talk that retails for $99.99. The one thing to note on this phone is the fact that this is a 4G LTE phone, so you will get the nice and fast data speeds on this one. It is a GSM phone, which means you'll be activated with either AT&T or T-Mobile. Now the phone retails for $99.99, so it is an entry-level phone, but it does have some really nice specs in that it comes with a 4.5-inch screen. You do get a fairly new Android version in the form of Android 5.0, so this is a lollipop phone. It's got a 1.2 gig quad-core processor, a 5-megapixel main camera, and a 0.3 megapixel front-facing camera. Now the main highlight, other than the 4G LTE speeds on this phone, is really the design of it. And in case this looks familiar, if you've seen some of my other videos, or if maybe you've browsed the straighttalk.com webpage, this phone is essentially the same exact phone as the LG Power and the LG Destiny. Now, in case you're wondering about the price, why those other two are $20 cheaper than this one, and that is of course the fact that this is again a 4G LTE phone. The LG Power and the LG Destiny are just regular 3G. Now, another thing to mention on the model is the fact that this is the LG Sunset. On Straight Talk, you will see another phone with a Sun name. The other one is the LG Sunrise. So do not mistake this phone for the Sunrise, because the Sunrise is a much more entry-level phone. It's a lot less expensive, but it also does not have anywhere near the same features as this one. So what I would say the main highlight on this phone is kind of the design. The main thing on this phone is the fact that the buttons are on the back. These two indentations here are the volume buttons. This one in the middle is the power/lock button. So if you look on the sides of this phone, you're not going to find any other button because they're all located on the back. Another cool feature on this phone is the fact that you get these kind of floating Android buttons. So as you see here where the LG logo is, you're not going to see any physical buttons because the buttons are kind of built into the operating system. As you can see, they kind of float on the screen, which I really like. Now, despite the fact that this is a 4.5-inch screen phone, it really is a compact phone. It measures 5 inches in height. The width on this one is just at about 2.5, and the thickness is a little bit less than 1/2 inch. And that may sound like it's a thick phone, but once you get it in your hands, you'll find that this is a very slim phone. The main thing to note is the fact that the back is rounded, as you can see there. So it measures a lot thicker than it really feels in your hand. Once you get this in your hand, you'll find that this is a very slim and compact phone. Now, moving on to the operating system, there's really nothing special there. This is pretty much straight up Android. So pretty much everything you'll find on here, you'll find on any other Android 5.0 phone. The only extra that I can mention is the FM radio, which not every entry-level phone will come with, but this one does have it. But everything else is pretty much standard Android. The one thing that I will mention on this phone that I really like is the screen, or the resolution quality, if you will, on this phone. I find that the videos on this phone are super crisp and super bright, so you won't have any problems watching videos on this phone because the screen is really crisp. There's no graininess to it, so I really do like that aspect of it. One thing to mention on the multimedia thing is that the speaker is fairly large for a phone of this size, so it really does have a nice sound quality to it. Other than that, about the only other thing worth mentioning on this phone is the camera, which I really like as well. It takes great pictures, and it's got some nice extras that lets you play around with your images once you've taken them. There's not a whole lot of gadgetry to it, or a lot of like extras when you take the picture, but once you've taken the picture, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with it. This is just some stupid picture of nothing, but I will show you that it's got a lot of little neat extras on it. It does have geo-tagging on it, so it'll tell you where the picture was taken. It's also got a lot of neat editing features to it. So we'll go into editing mode, and you do get a lot of cool effects on it. So for example, you have vintage, drama, HDRscape, etc., etc. And these are all available to you once you've, or after you've taken a picture. So I really do like the camera on this phone. I think it's a nice little unit, great little phone for taking pictures. And like I said at the beginning, it does have a front-facing camera. I'm not a huge fan of those. I hate looking at my face on them, but if you're one of those people who like front-facing cameras, this phone does come with it, so you can do Skype, that kind of thing with it. It is a lower resolution camera, but it is pretty functional, and it does work fairly well. So one last thing to mention is that, of course, you get all the standard Android stuff, which I think I mentioned. So you do get Google Play, YouTube, which I showed, the Maps app. And one last thing I'd like to say is that this phone is very responsive. So when you're doing something like this, it's very responsive to your touch. You may not, or you may notice on this video that there is absolutely no hesitation whatsoever when you zoom in or you rotate or you do that kind of thing. So the performance on this phone is quite excellent for the price. And one last thing I will mention, because I do know that a lot of entry-level phones kind of lack in this, and that's the fact that the screen on this phone is super slick. So even though the phone is all plastic, the screen is really slick, which allows you to kind of do this with ease. If you're kind of looking into another entry-level phone, let me tell you that if you're looking at some other phones, you will find that the screen has a bit of a graininess texture to it. So when you're doing this kind of thing, you kind of feel a little bit of resistance on your finger when you're dragging it across the screen. On like some of the entry-level ZTEs, for example, they really have that issue. This phone does not have that issue whatsoever. If I didn't know any better, I would think that the screen is made out of glass, even though it's not. So I think that about wraps up the video. I highly recommend this phone if you're looking at an LTE phone under $100. So do make sure that you have AT&T or T-Mobile coverage before you run out and buy this phone. This phone will not work on Verizon, so make sure you don't get this phone if all you have is Verizon. Again, highly recommend it. Under $100, you can't go wrong with this phone. There's really nothing I don't like about it. So again, I highly recommend it.